In the heart of Pennsylvania, a strange creature has been seen over the countryside and forests.
We may be dealing with maybe a possible flying creature. We don't know.
Around here, they call it the Thunderbird.
I wouldn't want to be in his food chain.
We just keep going out there and we keep trying to, find those pieces of the puzzle that are missing.
And they are somewhere, and they will be found.
Pennsylvania, USA, a state rich in history. The Philadelphia metropolitan area is considered the birthplace of American democracy. It's also famous for its beautiful natural surroundings and for once being the center of America's steel industry. Today, its rural areas seem frozen in time, small enclaves forgotten to history. But this state has a well-kept secret. Here, locals are passionate about all things paranormal. And it is said that sometimes, at dusk, strange creatures take to the skies.
I'm Joe Mayer, from South Greensburg. I'm a stonemason. It was just about dark. The sky still had light in it, but it was real close to turning dark, late dusk. And it just came out of nowhere. I mean, it made no noise except the swish of the wings I heard. And that was, when I looked up, it was just like this. I mean, it just never looked at us or anything. It just was on a mission, I guess, heading somewhere to feed. We were out here. My wife, Ryan, and our neighbor were sitting right there. I was over the fire here, flipping the ribs. And I heard flapping behind me. It sounded like a whoosh sound of a wing. And I turned around and looked, and up in the sky behind me was a huge bird. It was right there. It was right there. I watched this wing. I heard the wing coming down as I turned around, and it went straight down that road, right where the ditches in the tree up there is. It probably cleared that tree like 20 feet. Its second wing flap was about where that telephone pole was. The next one was about halfway down that road, and then it was gone. It was that fast. It was like 10 seconds, maybe 12 seconds, and it was gone. What was that? I don't know. And I jumped in on the internet after that, and we were looking up birds. And we seen nothing that looked like it. Yeah, nothing. Closest thing to that was, in color-wise, was like a golden eagle, which is a darker brown. But it was, I've seen eagles. That wasn't an eagle. It was just a huge bird.
Mary is passionate about anything paranormal. She knows all of the Thunderbird stories.
I've talked to many people who have actually had encounters of various kinds. People who have seen it flying, people who have seen it, people who have complained that the fish in their pond have all disappeared because the Thunderbird has eaten them. Friends that have had little dogs taken from a fenced-in yard at night. So, yeah, I know some Thunderbird stuff.
For Mary, monsters aren't just a passion, they're a job.
This is my store. It's a gift shop. It's got all kinds of fun stuff in it. We like monsters. Well, right now we're studying Thunderbirds because the Thunderbird is well known around here for doing some very strange things. Okay, Thunderbirds, dream catchers, cards with Thunderbird feathers on them. Come on, Bigfoot. You can actually have your picture taken with Bigfoot. This is a picture of an Indian teepee with a Thunderbird. You can see what they were seeing. And it wasn't a heron, and it wasn't an eagle, and it wasn't an owl. It was something else.
I think it's a small segment of the population that really finds them interesting, wants to know more, wants to follow up on them, wants to look for themselves to see, looking around to see if they can see something. So I'd say a small part of our population, but a serious one, are keeping track of what goes on.
I think that's an interesting thing.
This one piece will make 52 layers.
Watch on mobile devices or the big screen, all for free. No subscription required. Download Veely now.
South Greensburg, a small town of 2,000 inhabitants, has experienced the most Thunderbird reports. In this small, tightly knit community, news of the paranormal spreads like wildfire.
I'm Betty Dobies, mayor of South Greensburg. It's just a friendly town. They look out for each other. You know what I mean? It's like a knitted community where everybody looks out for each other. We don't bother each other, but if there's a problem, everybody comes in and helps solve that problem or help you out in any way they can. It's just that kind of communities that we have here. It would have a big wingspan that people have seen as far as, Acme and all around the area. Somebody's seen it up on 819. A friend of mine's seen it up in Acme where they have a pond. But as far as being a Thunderbird or not, I can't answer that. But there are sightings of a big bird, and that's what it is.
Mike is one of those who saw the disturbing, elusive creature.
It was September 2001, and I was standing on the porch right at my old house, watching the traffic go by. It was on a major highway, 119, in Greensburg, and caught my attention was a noise it sounded like flags flapping in a thunderstorm, and I looked up and I thought I saw a plane. I did a double take, like a small plane, and here it was a bird. Its wingspan was stretched out. It might have been 50 feet up in the air, but I could tell that the wings would stretch almost 3 lanes of a 4-lane highway. And it inspired me to paint this.
This is Beyond the Edge Radio. Nervous? Scared? Don't be afraid. The wait will be over soon. Sit down, strap in, and hold on tight.
Let's go live in 5, 4, 3.
Hey, good evening and welcome to another edition of Beyond the Edge Radio. We are live here on the ParaX Radio Network and Planet Paranormal, 803 here on the East Coast, and it is Sunday.
Eric Altman spends all his free time chasing monsters. He would love to add the Thunderbird to his trophy case.
People describe the Thunderbird as a large bird, usually black in color from the beak to the talons. Sometimes it's covered in feathers, sometimes not, but usually when it's covered in feathers, as I said, it's black. Sometimes they describe a white ring around its neck, other times no. When it's not covered with feathers, they usually describe it having like a membrane, like a reptilian membrane, or like a leathery type of skin to it. And the wingspan, it ranges in size from 8 foot, and I've heard reports as much as 20 foot in length. A very large, large bird.
We looked on the internet to find out what it could be, and we kept running into Stan Gordon's name, so I called him up and put a report in, and he came down and interviewed me over and asked me to draw a picture of it.
In Pennsylvania, when the supernatural is spotted, Stan Gordon is called to the rescue. He has carefully documented all the evidence on the Thunderbird.
My name is Stan Gordon. I'm from Greensburg, Pennsylvania. I've been researching and investigating strange and unusual happenings here in Pennsylvania since, actually, I started in 1959 when I was 10 years old. The main thing I do is gather information. Witnesses call me on sightings either by way of email or my hotline, which has been available to the public since 1969. And I interview people, try to figure out what they saw. Cases that warranted, we try to go out and do first-hand investigations. Many of the phenomena I investigate, whether it be strange creatures or UFOs, many of these things, as we track them down, we can we can find an explanation for them. Many of these things are misidentifications. We can figure out what the people see. But year after year, people continue to report these encounters with something that as of yet we don't have the answers for.
Pennsylvania is fertile ground for Eric Altman and Stan Gordon. It is said that monster sightings are more common here than in any other state in the country.
Historically, Pennsylvania has always been active with a history of strange phenomena, from accounts from the Native Americans to articles in newspapers of the 1800s to the present. People see things year after year throughout the state of Pennsylvania.
I'm not sure why this area has such a history of strange phenomenon. I really don't know, but it just does. Reports back from the 50s onward. Some of the more recent ones have taken place in the 90s through the 2000s. Most recent was in 2013, but they go back as far back as the 50s. And we're aware of across the nation, there have been reports dating back to the 1800s.
Many of the reports initially appear to be strange and unusual, but when you go out and do the investigation, the majority are found to be either natural or man-made in origin. It's very hard, for example, when you see an aircraft in the sky or a bird, to get an idea of the actual altitude and size. We've had instances of these huge birds, these Thunderbird reports, where they are also at very, very close range, and there was a way that they were able to measure and get a pretty good idea of the wingspan of those very large flying creatures. Over the years, I've gathered a lot of information, interviewed hundreds and hundreds of witnesses, gathered various types of physical evidence, saw different patterns to various phenomena. So I'm convinced that there's phenomena out there that we don't have an explanation for.
But where could this giant bird come from? According to witnesses, the creature could be millions of years old.
Some of the reports describe something as very large, but with leathery skin. They look like giant bats. And then other witnesses that come forward who have seen some of these huge flying creatures at pretty close range, and reluctantly they tell me that they look like something that was prehistoric.
We may be dealing with maybe a pterodon or a pterosaur, an extinct, possible flying creature. We don't know.
And this is one of those mysteries with so many of these strange creature reports, whether we're dealing with Thunderbirds or Bigfoot, or we get Black Panther sightings in the area, other types of strange creatures. And it's not only in Pennsylvania, but the question always comes up, where do they come from and where do they go?
Really startling to see something that large. But I also heard that they're harbingers of doom.
Lou DeRose is a lawyer and amateur historian. For this citizen of South Greensburg, it's not surprising that monster stories have a strong resonance here.
I'm originally from the area. I was born just north of Greensburg, and I've been here 45 years. I'm involved in the Westmoreland County Historical Society. I'm the past chair of that group. I've written a book about the history of Greensburg. I've written some other chapters about local history and things like that. Well, we're good, adventurous stock. The Scotch-Irish were adventurous and hardworking and eager to take on new challenges, and I think their descendants and all of us just sort of adopted that philosophy. Oh, this is interesting. What happened here? What, a Bigfoot sighting? Let's go find that guy. A UFO sighting? Let's go out and sit out in the woods for, 40 years and see if there's another one. I think it's terrific.
The belief in this mythical bird is nothing new for the First Nations of Pennsylvania.
My name is Christian Allen. My native name is Kalista Ndakwa. I'm of mixed heritage, but I'm a descendant of the Sewickley Sept of the Shawnee. For my people, the Thunderbird is the gatekeeper of heaven. It is something that watches over us. When it's here, it's flesh and blood. It's an animal, but it has the capability to disappear. I think what they saw would be what it would look like. For us, it would resemble a falcon in shape, but be very, very large. It would be following the same paths, which both of the eyewitnesses, it was following the same path. So I think as far as their eyewitness report, it doesn't differ from what my people would believe that you would see.
The sightings all seem to converge on the same place, the forest of Chestnut Ridge, a stone's throw from South Greensburg.
One of the most interesting areas in the country is the Chestnut Ridge. The Chestnut Ridge is a 100-mile-long mountain range that runs from Preston County, West Virginia, through Westmoreland, Fayette, Indiana County in southwest Pennsylvania. It is one of the most active areas year after year for Thunderbird reports. And for whatever reason, that area over around Derry in Westmoreland County, along the base of the ridge, is very, very active. In this immediate area, again, locally over the years, I've heard people talking about describing me this loud whoosh or swooshing sound. They gave an impression of something big and flying close by, but they didn't see what was causing the sound. What's interesting is it's all within a couple of miles, maybe not even that far.
Yeah, I was standing right here on the porch, and the bird flew out from these woods over here, right over the hillside, and it lingered above the traffic, its wings out, and it flew up over into these trees here, and there used to be a big dead tree on that hillside, and that's where it landed.
It happened. You can tell me you didn't see it. So I know what I saw, and I know what my buddy saw, and I know what my wife saw. And that's just how it is. It's a big bird, and not from Sesame Street either.
It has a great area for any kind of animal to live and breed and have no problem staying hidden from man, because it's such a wild area. A lot of forested cover, water area, a lot of good food source. So it's a great area for any kind of animal to really hide out and stay in and not really be bothered by.
But that bird, I wouldn't want to corner that bird. I wouldn't want to be in his food chain.
Return to the scene, observe the skies, and study the creature's habitat. These are the standard methods of Eric Altman.
What we try to do as researchers, if an eyewitness has a sighting at a specific location, we try to go to that location and we try to search the area to see if there might be physical evidence, feathers or maybe droppings or something that can show us that there was an animal in that area. I followed up on these reports over the years, and I believe that the eyewitnesses are seeing something. I don't know what they're seeing. Of course, I wasn't there to validate what they saw, but they're seeing something that they can't identify, and that's what I'm trying to find out. It's a challenge, but it's what makes it interesting is just having that thrill of the chase to get out there and try to find out.
Eric Altman can count on followers to accompany him in his research.
I met Eric at a conference, actually. He was speaking about Bigfoot. I sat to listen to it because I really wasn't aware at that time of all the different sightings right in my own backyard. We quickly became good friends because he's open-minded and he likes adventures, and I'm the same way. So, and now I co-host on BTE Radio with him. And we're at a lot of events together. Just a great guy. Stories about the Thunderbirds over the past decade, 2001 to I believe in May 2014, there's been sightings off and on. Everyone keeps describing the same type of creature, a bird with about a 20-foot wingspan, black and brown in color. It always seems to be the same kind of a story. Someone's out alone walking or riding a motorcycle. There's no other witnesses but the one account. I am a skeptic. I've never personally had somebody tell me an account of seeing the Thunderbirds, but I've read a lot of different stories, and I came down here to Greensburg to see for myself what the area is all about. I want to have the proof before I make a decision on what's being seen and told about. I believe they're seeing something, But without me being there and just getting bits and pieces, I can't say for sure what it is.
Before entering Chestnut Ridge, Altman motivates his troops and organizes the hunt for the Thunderbird.
Basically what we're going to do is try to come up with an area where there have been a lot of sightings at and check that area out, see if we can find anything. And it seems like the best area to go to would be what makes sense, South Greensburg, because that's where Joe's had his sighting at. And what Christian was explaining is where a lot of the burial mounds seem to be, and there have been sightings in the last decade. So that might be our best bet.
People think that this is all populated area. They think that, you know, it's all urban area, suburban area, and there's no way big animals could hide out.
Oh, you go down to Slickville, it's all mines.
Yeah.
Slickville, there's mines everywhere down there, open mines everywhere down there.
But for today's outing, we're taking some very basic, simple equipment with us. A pair of binoculars, so we can keep an eye on the trees and the sky in case we do see something. A GPS, so we can map our coordinates. If we want to return to that area, we'll know where, if we did find anything. And of course, the 16-foot tape measure, so if we do find anything, we can document what we do find as far as evidence. And if we do need to return to the area, we can return with a DNA kit and collect whatever physical evidence we can collect. Well, of course, we want to document it on video camera and hopefully get some pictures of it. And
probably get a picture of me running and screaming.
We get the gear packed up and we'll be ready to roll.
I am scared, but it still drives me out in the forest to look for things.
Sneaking along the ridges, looking for sign, basically. Look for feeding area, bones, anything like that. There's a couple different ways to go in down here. If you cut straight down this road and swing to the left, that'd take you right to the wetlands. You can cut up the trail to the ridge and go out that way and down too.
For Christian Allen, there is no doubt that they are on the very edge of the Thunderbird's habitat.
As far as what we look for today, we were basically hunting a flesh and blood creature. And this is a place where a lot of people don't even know it's here. And it has a lot of food and cover for such a creature to exist.
But Eric Altman and his friends are not the only ones interested in the winged creature.
My name is Brian Shema. I'm the Conservation Director for the Audubon Society of Western Pennsylvania. The organization was founded in 1916. The mission of the Audubon Society of Western Pennsylvania is to educate and connect people to the natural world. I oversee much of our operations, daily operations. I oversee all of our conservation work, and I am the resident bird expert. Pennsylvania is, you know, there's a lot of diverse habitats in Pennsylvania. We actually have a lot of flowing water, actually more miles of stream than any other state in the lower 48 states. A lot of individual interesting habitats exist within Pennsylvania. Largest bird in Pennsylvania is bald eagle. Their wingspread is right around between 6 and 6.5 feet. You know, they have the iconic white head and white tail when they're mature. When they're immature, the bird's all brown. So bald eagles are actually confused with a lot of other species, but it is the largest bird that we have in Pennsylvania. We're actually also a mixing zone for when speaking specifically of birds. We have a number of northerly breeding birds that exist in Pennsylvania, as well as a number of southerly breeding birds in Pennsylvania. So we're kind of a mixing zone for two different groups of birds that prefer different latitudes.
We try to piece together the puzzle, so to speak. We want to see if there's more information out there than just that eyewitness story. And we want to try to find out what they saw too. But if something like that's still around, it'd be the find of a century.
No person has been injured or killed by a Thunderbird in Pennsylvania. And despite its intimidating size, we shouldn't fear it. So says Christian Allen, at least.
Like I said, it's an omen. It's a good omen. It means you're being taken care of. It's not something to be frightened of. They also come with storms. If there's a storm coming, like a really bad storm, you'll see them. They're warning you. Batten hatches, it's coming. They come out of water, which is another good thing because they can always come out of clean water, and we all need that. So it could be something to lead you to water. As you can see, it's clean. This water's, all you need is a few drops of bleach and to boil it, and you can drink it. Yeah, you can see there's some fish there.
Yeah. Creek chubs.
Actually, we would hope that if we were being noisy, to flush something out. Maybe startle something that it would take off. You never know. Just looking. You would think in one of the higher up trees, like the tree out there, they would find a larger, flatter tree and put a nest up in that area there, but it's anybody's guess. We don't even know if they nest in trees.
But according to Brian Shima, the searches conducted by Eric Altman are likely to be unsuccessful.
If that bird existed in a populated area, I think everyone would agree that someone like me would know about it overnight. The sightings would come to our organization. We are the bird experts in Western Pennsylvania. We are the bird conservation organization for Western Pennsylvania.
And where we saw it, it was kind of in line, flying in line with the trail, but about 100 yards to the left, right down the road. And that was pretty neat. But I mean, the fact that you saw one right up the road, and there was another one seen right up the road there, that's kind of too much of a coincidence in the same area for not to be something to it.
People that see what they think might be a Thunderbird could very well be the perspective that they're viewing from. It could be a very large bird. You know, it could be a red-tailed hawk. It could be a bald eagle. It could be a golden eagle. Each of these being large birds. But when looking at it from a certain perspective, they might not have a way of judging how large that bird actually is.
I mean, any kind of raptor, its diet's protein. And
yeah.
That's here.
Yeah.
See anything?
No. That's all such heavy swamp in there. I mean, you can't get through there.
I feel a little uneasy back here. Just, I don't know. It's pretty. I love nature, but there's just, I don't know.
Spooky.
Something here. I feel spooky.
See what we got here.
It's a myth. You know, it's scientifically speaking, there have been no records, no documentation whatsoever of a bird such as that. There is really a lot of evidence that shows that it would be basically impossible for a bird like that to exist. If the Thunderbird were to exist, there would need to be a large enough population to sustain genetic diversity, which means many of us would be seeing Thunderbirds on a daily basis. Without that genetic diversity, that species would quickly, the diversity would deteriorate and the species would simply not exist.
Christian Allen doesn't have any elaborate theories. For him, the Thunderbird is an ancestral belief.
This is a recreation of, I hate to say this, but it's similar to like a rosary, so that you can remember your prayers. And these are things that you're thankful for, like this means family. And these symbols here that look like keyholes are Thunderbirds, the thunderers that are the guardians of heaven. It's very important to our culture and it's something that we today keep alive. But we believe it exists, whether it's flesh and blood or from the other realm, as these sticks would suggest. We believe it's possible that you can see it, and you're going to continue to see it. And like I said, it's not a bad thing, it's a good thing. Do we know where he is?
He went in there.
Heavy back there.
Doe, fawn.
Oh, are you okay? Yeah, see, that's why I quit following you, right there.
I looked for hair, I looked for feathers, everything back. I didn't see anything like that. You know, so figured if there's going to be anything, it'd be around the greenbrier, the jag bushes. You know, I'd grab hair, grab feather, or whatever. I didn't see anything like that. There's really no area that they could build a nest off the ground back there either. There's some buffalo grass growing back there in some of the openings. It was all laid flat in a swirl like this. And I showed her one right up here. But as I got in further, I found 3 different spots like that in there. Where either it's, you would think a herd of deer, 4 or 5 deer maybe bedding together, but usually you'll see the individual pockets where the deer are laying, you know, in the grass, but I didn't see that. I just saw a whole area. So that's strange.
The ultimate goal of cryptozoologists is to confound science, to discover the unexplainable. And every little clue that brings them closer to that goal is worth evaluating.
This is an owl?
Looks like an owl.
I find feathers every time I walk, and sometimes, like, they'll be laying on my car seat, like, that shouldn't be. Oh.
Some tribes see the owl as an omen that somewhere in your family's going to pass. My tribe's a little different. To us, it was a warbird.
Okay.
And by this, they actually kept owls as pets. Naturally, if you're going to go to war against someone who's definitely afraid of owls, you're going to have an owl with you.
Okay.
So, a mile and a half long, I'd say.
Yeah, comes all the way out to 4 quarters. These little swamp here.
Today we got unlucky. Inconclusive. We got to look at some great terrain, great area, a great water source and food source, and sure could probably hide a large bird of that size without anybody being around to see it. Are we going to find it from just a walk out in the woods? No. It probably is going to take a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of manpower, and just the right place at the right time. And we might get lucky, but it's just the luck of the draw, getting out there and doing it.
You can hunt turkeys because they're usually on the ground, but to hunt a large falcon-shaped bird, you have to follow that animal, know its habits. It would take forever, I think, just to come out and see one. I'm not going to bet that you are.
So what did Joe and the dozens of other witnesses see? Did they just make the whole thing up?
I think that there are rational explanations to what people are seeing. And I think that, you know, through some education and through some awareness, we might be able to get to the bottom of what it is these people are seeing and how they're confusing the size of these birds with something that we see on a daily basis, like large hawks or large eagles. I think that the humans are curious. And I think that, you know, with technology, certainly the internet, if someone were to Google extremely large bird, there is a lot of information out there about various myths or real facts. I think that the human curiosity is oftentimes something that may lead people down the road of myths.
For his part, Stan Gordon believes that the abundance of evidence confirms that this is not just a myth. The Thunderbird really does haunt the skies of Pennsylvania.
I mean, I've been taking calls from the public on these sightings since 1969. So a lot of people know that there's a place they can report sightings to. I had founded and directed 3 volunteer research groups that started in 1970 and continued to 1993 that were very, very active throughout the state of Pennsylvania. We had a lot of scientists and engineers and research people, former military intelligence people, law enforcement officers who were part of our volunteer group. So we had trained people who were going out there to look into these mysteries. And it was our goal to try to investigate these cases, to try to find an explanation, which in many cases we did. But year after year, these incidents continue to occur. and not every case can be so easily dismissed.
Although sightings of the Thunderbird are concentrated in the South Greensburg area, there are still many skeptics here.
I mean, I've seen some large birds in the area, but nothing super large to where it's a supernatural bird. Yeah, it's almost as bad as the Mothman. That's ridiculous to me, the Mothman. Really?
And the absence of any hard evidence doesn't help Eric Altman's cause.
No photographs, no video, there's no evidence. And that's what, I can see the skeptic's argument, you know, where's the proof? Where's the photographs? Where's the video? We don't have any. And I have to agree with the skeptics. So why aren't people whipping out their cell phone cameras? Everybody has one. You know, everybody has, you know, the access to a camera on the cell phone or video. Why aren't people taking pictures?
But, I mean, we all had cameras. My camera was sitting right here, our phone cameras. They all had their phone in their hands right there, and there it was, and we didn't take a picture. Stupidity. We were kind of like just watching it, yeah? Didn't think of it.
People seeing something, yeah, I believe maybe they're seeing a bird of some sort. It definitely is not a Thunderbird. There's no such thing. It just doesn't sound right, just doesn't make sense. I'd have to see it. You'd have to catch one or kill one or something for me to believe it.
You have to have physical evidence to prove the animal exists. Eyewitness testimony just doesn't cut it. So Doug's right. You have to have physical evidence.
I've told Eric over the year, we've argued, I said, if I'm out in the woods and I'm hunting, I see Bigfoot or I see something that resembles it, I'm going to shoot it. It's either I want to be a hero or people are going to hate me. So.
And they'll probably hate him. And with the Thunderbird, he's right. People are seeing something. What it is, who knows? But what they're describing doesn't fit any of the known animals or any known birds that are around this area. It's much too large.
I do believe in UFOs. Yes, I believe that there's creatures from other planets, because I think it would be absurd to believe that we're the only life in the universe. And you know, with the way it is today, they're discovering planet after planet. So there has to be life somewhere else. Like Area 51, do I think?
Okay, well, let me ask you this question then. If you believe in Area 51 has UFOs and aliens there, but you've never seen them, why don't you believe in Bigfoot or Thunderbird? You've never seen those.
Well, because for one, Bigfoot, you're always out there. People have cameras. The thing cannot be that elusive.
You don't typically see a Bigfoot walking down the street or a Thunderbird flying through the air. It's not something that happens every day, so it's not accepted by science, it's not accepted by the general public, so you must be crazy. So people don't want to talk about stuff like that. So they're very reluctant to report or share their experiences.
So many of these people were people who didn't believe that such creatures could exist until they had their own experience. And so many of these people have a difficult time dealing with it. Sometimes they don't want to talk about it. They're afraid to share the experience, afraid of being ridiculed. But some of them, it's a life-changing experience. And I run into this quite often.
Only a few people today believe in the existence of the Thunderbird. But all the same, this mythical bird has found its way into American popular culture. From fighter jets to car brands, the Thunderbird has left its mark.
It is a Thunderbird. I got it because it's a protector and it's going to keep my soul safe. That was why I liked this tattoo.
Owned-enquiries, which means thunderer. And of course, as the folklore goes, the thunder and lightning that you hear, the rolling, the papa panawata, the rolling thunder you hear through the hills is caused by this bird flapping its wings. They believe that some of the valleys in the primordial days were shaped by this bird flying too close to the land and its wings swooped up the valleys. But today, it's seen as a positive thing. It's a very important representation of the spiritual world to us, and that we don't need to be predominated with the negative or the fear of it, that it's something that should live in you, edify you, let you know that life is good, and good is in control, and that you can relax and live your life. And that is what the Thunderbird means to us.
Well, I'm sure they've seen a bird, and it is a big bird when it flies. It does have a big wingspan, but I don't know what to believe. I've asked people around, and that's what they all tell me it is.
There seems to be a really good way of telling the huge wingspan of these creatures, something that you can eliminate some of the big birds around here, some of the hawks and blue herons and other birds. And a lot of the witnesses I've talked to, by the way, are people who have hunted, people who are familiar with the native birds of Pennsylvania, and they realize that what they saw was something completely different than what they had observed.
They saw the shape, the figure of what we saw and what's in our tradition, so it's the same.
For most of the residents in South Greensburg, the Thunderbird is an amusing legend.
If the Thunderbird is flying around here, he better watch out, because we have a big Boeing 700 plane coming into Latrobe 4 or 5 times a day, and it might get in the way. I believe in a lot of things I haven't seen, though, you know, on various levels. So who am I to say?
I do believe in Bigfoot and all those other things out there. I believe in UFOs and things like that. I believe those things are happening. But as far as the bird, I've never seen it other than the blue heron, so I can't really. And I've never seen either one of the others, but for some reason I believe in them.
People should keep an open mind. I mean, we are not going to move forward in time if we don't keep experiencing new things. I think you have to keep looking, you have to keep listening, and you have to keep paying attention until we find out. And we have over time. Science has proven a lot of things that people thought were bogus, you know? Science proved them wrong. So science eventually will catch up with everything. Hoping I live long enough to see some of it.
There's a whole lot that science can't account for or explain. And there's so much around us that we don't see, that we use every day, radio waves, television waves, and we don't see that, but we know that they're here. So what makes other entities, maybe if they're from another dimension, why would that be difficult to understand? I think everybody wants their story to be heard. And I would be in awe. Who am I to say that they didn't see what they saw? I wasn't there, so I would let them tell their story to me. I'm a safe place to tell a story too.
These things apparently go on all the time, but a lot of people don't know where to call or are reluctant to report things, and some people wait for weeks or months or years later, or they never report in. So there may be a lot more of this going on there than we have any idea of.
For his part, Eric Altman isn't discouraged by the lack of tangible evidence.
You would think if there was such a thing out there, that a lot more people would see it. We'd have physical evidence of it. We'd have video. Science would know about it. We would know for sure they're out there. Like the Bigfoot, they're 8 foot, 10 foot, 12 foot tall. They're supposed to be a giant primate that runs around in the forest. Thousands of people claim they see it. Why don't we have proof of it? The Loch Ness Monster is supposed to be this huge aquatic creature that lives in Loch Ness. And hundreds of people claim they've seen it, but we have no physical proof of it, except for maybe some grainy video footage. But people still claim they see it. You know, how are these large cryptids surviving and still being seen without any proof? We don't know. And that's what makes our job even harder and challenging. We just keep going out there and we keep trying to find those pieces of the puzzle that are missing. And maybe one day we'll have the proof. It baffles the mind to think how such large creatures like the Thunderbird can fly around in our skies and only be witnessed from time to time and not leave any physical trace evidence.
There has to be some kind of population of them. And they are somewhere, and they will be found. Because they wouldn't be cruising through here unless they were within the area.
It could be here. I believe it definitely could be here.
Joe Meyer continues to look to the sky in the hopes of catching a glimpse of this giant mythical bird.
Since I've been hunting, since I saw that bird, I spend a lot of time looking up here and there too, especially when we're hunting up the mountains. Actually, anywhere, I look up quite a bit. Just, it's in my head now, and I got a gun.
I'm sure I would probably freeze in fright. I would hope that I have my camera. I have my camera for everything else to take pictures of, but I don't know, I'd be thankful too. I'd be thankful that I finally get the proof that I'm looking for.
Yeah, I would like to see one. I think it would be a good experience. Yeah.
I'd love to see it again, like I said, but what are the chances? You know?